Back with the show again. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. Well, the Game of Thrones, actually, it did end. I want to let everybody know out there, it did end, but seemingly it has not ended for a lot of people because all week long, people are just going off on a tangent when it comes to Game of Thrones, whether it's for or whether it's against. And here with me today to share his thoughts on the final episode of the Game of Thrones is a good friend of mine that we're just so happy to know. And I'll just tell you what, if you need a good podcast app, because if you're like me, you had a lot of issues over the course of time with various podcast apps not working to where you needed to be. In fact, there's one I will not name that I will never use again because I used it, and it keeps popping up, and it keeps popping up, and I keep trying to take it off and take it off. Sometimes it stays on my phone for 2 to 3 days active, even though I try to take it off. Heck, it's even worse than my Samsung player, and that is bad. I'm telling you right now, that is bad because that really literally wants to stay on my phone forever. You cannot power it off. You cannot close it out. The app just comes pop back on. But this app, not only does it provide you all the podcasts you want to take care of and you want all the podcasts you want to listen to, plus it allows you to go ahead and select many, many podcasts that are out there. It does, like I've said before, it discreetly tells you when a new podcast is up. It also has layered out there in a nice, neat fashion all your favorite podcasts in a row, ready to play for you, and it's always there for you. And it turns, when you ask it to turn off, guess what? It closes. What do you know? It's a novel concept. It is the Bullhorn app. It is a tremendous app. It's available now for iPhones and Android phones. And the man behind the Bullhorn app is with me here once again. I'll tell you what, it's just great to talk to him again, this time about Game of Thrones. It's Sam Petralia. Sam, great to have you back.
Hey, Gerald, it's good to be back on.
I'm just so happy your app just closes. When you ask it to close, it closes, which to me doesn't sound very hard, but for a lot of these apps, in fact, one, like I said, just really just irritates me, and I'll never open it again.
Well,
that to me is awesome.
I'm glad Bullhorn doesn't irritate you as much as the app we shall not name.
Yes. But no, it doesn't irritate me. Actually, it's an awesome app. To me, I've rated it 5 stars. It is truly an awesome app. It's the ease of use, the way you get in, you get out, you navigate through your podcast. And yes, I know you're here and me just saying wonderful things about, but the part of the reason why, I love it is the way I listen to podcasts now is because the way it navigates through everything so cleanly and so easily.
I really appreciate those kind of words. Yeah, we kind of took the approach that we want to be, simple. Simple's kind of better. Every app out there is so complex. Like even, multi-billion-dollar companies like Amazon, their kind of shopping app is just, there's so many buttons. So we really take the idea of that we want to reduce the number of buttons. We want to reduce the number of clicks that you have to get around the app. It's very exciting. I'm not sure if your listeners are aware, but we're still kind of new to the space. The podcast space is definitely heating up, both with content and apps, and all these kind of players are entering the podcast space every single day. A bunch of money's been kind of flowing in. So it's fun to be a part of this space, but we're really looking to be one of the good guys in the podcast app kind of world, where we're not trying to, scam the content producers. We're not trying to, penny pinch the users or anything like that. We're a completely free app, free to download and free to post your content. And, we've gotten kind of the layout down, and now we're kind of taking a big hack at the explore page and trying to recommend content to users. So it's a really cool time, and I'm very, very grateful to be in this space.
And it also has the novel concept of not only you being able to listen through your data, through Wi-Fi, but also as well, if you just put in your phone number, if you want to play a certain podcast, like let's say the Pop Culture Cosmos, it'll go actually directly to your phone and take the stress off your data if you don't have an unlimited data plan.
Yes, that's kind of like our main differentiator, is that we actually allow users, whether or not they're not connected to their Wi-Fi or they don't have an unlimited data plan, that they can go in and they can listen to a podcast without using their data. So there's also a new feature. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Gerald, but I can go into the Pop Culture Cosmos profile on Bullhorn and actually add your profile as a contact in my phone book. So I can just be driving and I can use my, I forget what Google's voice assistant is called, but I can use that, and I can just say call the pop culture cosmos, and it actually dials me in and listens, and I start listening to your podcast without even opening the app. So it's pretty cool stuff.
It is pretty cool. I'll tell you what, right now that you have me intrigued when it comes to all the features that are actually here now or on the way coming with the Bullhorn app. I mean, again, if you really are looking for a cooperative, really thorough, really great, easy to use podcast app, it's right here for you. The Bullhorn app, available now. It's right there on the Google Play Store right now, available for iTunes, for iPhones. It's there for you. In fact, you can even use it even if you don't have a phone. You can use it for if you have a tablet, if you for anywhere you can get your apps, correct?
Yeah, we're actually not on tablets, but we are on the web, so there is a web version of the exact. It's just kind of like a duplicate. But yeah, you're making me blush. I really appreciate all the kind words.
Okay, well, let's get that out of the way because I know you want to talk Game of Thrones, but you know what? It is, like I said, when I listen back to my shows and all the podcasts, I do use the Bullhorn app, including all those Game of Thrones recaps that are out there, including the one that we just did, Josh and I, on the weekend. I was listening to it off my Bullhorn app and listening to him vent and listening to me vent, and then I hear the rest of the world vent
right
at this point in time. But not everybody's been against it. Some people actually liked it. Some people enjoyed it. Some people thought it was a thrilling tribute to the Starks, because pretty much that's what it came down to, is a thrilling tribute to the Starks. Your thoughts on the Game of Thrones final episode, the climactic episode of an entire series that people have just been on edge for, the ratings through the roof, just breaking records left and right for HBO.
Right.
That being said, everybody wanted to know how it ended. For you, how did the Game of Thrones final episode end?
So I would say disappointing. I'm not going to go ahead and say that I'm going to sign a petition or anything like that. Like, I mean,
that's the only thing I said to Josh. If you're going to sign a petition, be the one of these 300,000-400,000 strong that's signing a petition, are you providing money along with that to HBO?
Yeah, like I just don't understand it. Like, I think you can only be disappointed to a certain extent. Like, yeah, like I'm disappointed, but like there's so many other things in the world that, like, why am I wasting my time with signing a petition? That could be making the Bullhorn app better or something like that. No, but it just left so much to be desired. That's the problem. Like, it didn't end in a way that was like, oh wow, like they completely messed it up or something like that. It just left out so much. I thought it was very rushed. It left something to be desired, and just, I don't know, like the whole reason that I got kind of caught up in the whole Game of Thrones stuff is just because, like, there were so many little side stories. There's so much detail. Like, I would get caught up in like the lore, like, oh, there's like, they would like mention like a small little house, and then like that small little house has its own banner, it has its own story, its own like family heirlooms, and it's just so cool that like George R.R. Martin created this whole world almost, in a sense, for us to kind of like be invested in. And I don't think this season, and especially the last episode, did anything to kind of highlight that. It just seemed rushed.
Well,
like I have like a small little list here. I could go through.
Oh yeah, please, let's do it. Well, actually, before you do, I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
Jon Snow. He, a lot of people. In fact, you and I had previously talked about Game of Thrones in the, like I said, one of the most popular episodes that we've ever had, and thank you for your participation in that. And during it, we talked about Jon Snow being, I guess, the end looked like it was fitting for him to go ahead and take a seat upon the Iron Throne because of his just nature and whatnot. And that seemed like, to many, the obvious choice. And I understand deviating from that. And that's neither here nor there. That's what a lot of filmmakers want to do these days. They want to show you that they're going to go down one path, and then they send you down another. And that's fine. But the path that they sent people down in regards to the finale for the Game of Thrones really wasn't the path that I think a lot of people really truly enjoyed or savored as far as for a final episode.
Yeah, I mean, I see what they're trying to do, where they're trying to throw us for a loop. I mean, in the age of, Reddit and everyone kind of like jumping on the conspiracy theories and figuring things out so quickly, with this kind of like internet hive mind that we have. I understand where they're trying to go and they're trying to throw everyone for a loop, but like I think they had to keep like Jon Snow probably shouldn't have been on the throne in my opinion. And the way they got there, I think is what is really up to them. And it just seemed kind of like lazy on the writers' parts.
Right. You're the second person to tell me that.
Huh?
You're the second person to tell me that.
Yeah, it's just like a bummer. Like, I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I committed like 200 hours of my life to like rewatching these seasons. You know, just kind of like, oh, I'm bored. Like I'll just throw on Game of Thrones because it's such a great show, and it just like really tailed off.
But you have a list. But you have a list you wanted to go down and discuss on it as far as points in detail which you think really, really need to be addressed.
Yeah, so like I'll start off with like the good part of what I really liked and enjoyed of the season. I mean, the cinematography, the CGI, the battle scenes, like in terms of like the viewing and like the visual stimuli, I guess, was great. It was just so cool. Like Drogon, like he didn't look like a cheesy kind of CGI thing. Like the destruction of King's Landing, the Battle of Winterfell. I liked everything about it. The actors, love them. I think they'll always hold a special place in my heart. Whether it's Kit Harington or Peter Dinklage, Sophie Turner, they're all great actors. And the reason why I don't want to hate on the whole Game of Thrones season 8 and like the last episode too much is because a lot of people did put like a tremendous amount of work into delivering this. And I think what happened is the writers it just seemed a little lazy. I understand they've been doing it for like the better part of 10 years now. So they wanted to move on to something else, but I think there's a way that you could have passed the torch to someone else. So the things I loved, cinematography and the actors, things I'm okay with. I'm actually okay with, like, in terms of like the story itself, I'm very okay with Dany becoming a villain. I think that was cool that what they did it. But I think the biggest problem is it was just so rushed. Like her
transitioning into a mad queen type deal. That was done in the previous episode. I think a lot of people agree with you that part of it was rushed and not developed over the course of maybe 2-3 episodes.
Right. I really think it should have been like this whole season should have been fighting the Night King. The next season should have been fighting Cersei. And the season after that should have been like the aftermath, the potential civil war with Dany and Jon. It really deserved, maybe you can even split that up across 10 episodes in one season. But it just seemed rushed, and it didn't seem like I just don't understand why it was rushed. Maybe it's because of HBO's monetization strategy. Maybe it's because the writers wanted to do something else. Like, I don't
Well, the writers have moved on to Star Wars.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now they got like a trilogy in Star Wars, right? Yeah.
In 3 years, the next episode after Star Wars Episode 9 will be from them.
Really? See, and they'll probably do a great job with it. That's the thing that's probably going to like annoy me is it's probably going to be my favorite Star Wars. And I'm just going to have to sit there and grind my teeth while I'm watching it.
And if it's so great, you're going to sit up in the middle of the movie. Why didn't you take this time on the final episode of the Game of Thrones?
I know, right? It's just such a shame. Where was I? I'm still just kind of like not starstruck, but just deeply saddened. I've been in a mood all week.
See, and you and so many other people. I know you talked about how you thought it was so rushed and how you wanted to see it spread out either over the course of 2-3 seasons, more, or into a 10 episode arc. I know you wanted to. I know your thoughts on that. And that's actually a lot of and that echoes a lot of what other people are saying about how this season so abbreviated, so truncated. It was just kind of disappointing because of the fact, like you said, that everything had to come and be contained within one episode, whereas before they would space it out over the course of 2, 3, 4 episodes to get a story fully told, or at least part of those side stories, which you said you enjoy so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like it seemed like they were kind of like moving on to like create side series. Now, what do you think about like the spin-off or the side series that
Well,
HBO is thinking
I
about?
think the obvious one should be Arya. I mean, that in itself set up for something that could be interesting because she's going into unexplored territory, uncharted
Mhm.
territory. Her, involved in something like that, leading a series, that would be interesting because she is one of the universally beloved characters in the series, and the fact that she has that personal inner strength, and the fact that she's a killer doesn't hurt her as well. But I think any other prequels and things of that nature, you'll never get the kind of full audience once again after what happened with the Game of Thrones, because a lot of people are upset. A lot of people canceled their HBO subscriptions. I mean, there was a massive movement online bragging of who could go ahead and cancel their HBO the fastest. There was such a response to that. But yes, there will be some type of following for a prequel for the Game of Thrones and how that's set up. But I think the obvious choice should be Arya and going out and exploring the unexplored and uncharted areas of the West. And I think that should be a natural for a series that they should go ahead and HBO should explore.
Yeah, that I'm open to that idea too. And like some people were kind of upset that she did that, but I mean there was a few foreshadowings in like this, I don't know, maybe like even season 3 or season 4. She like asked, "Well, what's west of Westeros?" And someone said, "No one knows." And so I think it's always been in their mind. Um, the way she went off maybe was like kind of weird. It's just like the whole ending. Like Jon kills Dany, and then Grey Worm, who was just executing Lannister soldiers on the street, like puts him in jail instead of killing him on the spot. Or like even Drogon. Like Drogon, maybe you could argue like, hey, he didn't know who killed Dany, or he won't kill another Targaryen, and Jon's a Targaryen. But then but then Drogon understands like the symbolism of the throne and like how it's made the whole world gone crazy. So he burns down the throne, and that's his reaction. Like, it's kind of a bit of a stretch.
It was symbolism. A lot of people
Yeah.
associated that with the end of the Game of Thrones, and I kind of was disappointed by that part of it as well. And just seeing, also there's a scene with the High Council and how they came to be as far as Bronn
Yeah.
becoming the Bronn the Broken, becoming the king of the 6 of these 7 different kingdoms that were allotted as far as Westeros is concerned. I like the part where Grey Worm brings Tyrion to the council, and they're going to decide punishment on him, and Tyrion is told he wasn't going to speak, and then ends up Tyrion speaking throughout the entire scene.
Yeah. Like they were, I just don't get it. Like Grey Worm's in charge of the whole army. Tyrion sentenced to death. Jon just kills Dany, and somehow they both just get like a free pass. And like, I don't know. It seemed like Grey Worm could essentially almost rule Westeros, right? I mean, he has the Unsullied. He had the Dothraki that seemingly somehow raised itself from the dead, even though I thought they were all dead in episode 3. But I guess they're back to life. That's cool. And they're just hanging out in like the ports, like just it's just so bad. Why was it so bad?
Well, Grey Worm is the only one that I think had a legitimate reason to act and in the manner that he did, because his love of his life was just decapitated 2
Okay.
episodes prior. So he had a reason for his rage, his madness, his anger. But for any other the other reasons outside of maybe Jon Snow and his righteousness in order to do what's right, in order to go ahead and preserve, the kingdoms and all that, there really was no 100% solidification of, okay, this person is acting in this way for this reason. It just seemed like there was a lot left that was left for you as a viewer to interpret. And unfortunately, there's a lot of gray area, especially for so many people watching your product.
Yeah. It just seemed, yeah, for a show that was so detailed oriented, that was so all about like hidden meanings and bringing them to life, and like the long play. Like they'd mention something in season 1, and then it would come to like fruition in season 7. It was just all, and it's like it's lost all its like IQ. Like it became like the episode or the scene at the end when they have like the hand of the king kind of council, it seemed like an episode that was like, it was Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like it was just all these little corny jokes and everything. And it's like, this is how you're gonna end it. I don't know. Like they had so like I can only complain so much because I think HBO's monetization strategy might be kind of the culprit here. Besides the lazy writing of D&D and them wanting to move on, it's kind of interesting because like I don't pay for HBO. I just use my roommate's subscription and we just watch it together. So it's not like me going to a movie and paying $20 to see John Wick and then their kind of like revenue going through the roof instantly. No, it's kind of like this long play that people have to subscribe. So then HBO, like I can see the need that HBO wants to say, hey, we really need to stop spending so much money on Game of Thrones and we need to get other content because we have the Game of Thrones people. They are not going to unsubscribe, but apparently they just did with that whole movement. That we need to go out and like make, kind of like a diverse portfolio of content. So I think that might be kind of the culprit here as well, because like, I can only complain so much and I don't pay for HBO. I use other people's subscriptions and they allow that limit that, 5 people can log into a single account.
And but there is something, I understand the cost, and AMC has to go through that same thing as well with The Walking Dead, which is still the most expensive show on television. But in and of itself, it is having itself some declining returns of a big time proportion. So AMC will have to make that choice. Do we want to go ahead and still be happy with 5 million viewers, or do we want to cut our losses from theirs because our show costs so much, the actors, the production values? Same thing goes with HBO's Game of Thrones. At some point in time, you got to say, you know what, this production is just so expensive. You want this to end this way to end it. You want this way to go ahead for this battle. It's going to cost this much to go ahead and extend the time beyond an hour. Plus, you're paying all the salaries of all these of all this ensemble cast, because it's not a small cast like some other TV shows, which has 3 or 4 main stars and that's it. We're talking about a robust cast, so I can understand if it's a cost reason because something like HBO is out there. They've got other things in the fire going with Westworld, Watchmen, and so many other shows that also cost them not as much money as Game of Thrones, but in some cases, like Westworld, it's rather close.
You're right. And you could argue that those people bring in, like there's not as much as in like an overlap. Like they're getting more and more people in there. They're being on comedy shows. So yeah, I get it. Overall, it's just disappointing. I think my biggest issues with it was, they just made things over the course of the season that just didn't matter, or that seemed so important just didn't matter in the end. Like Bran's ability to warg just didn't matter. Like everyone was speculating he might warg into the dragon, he might do that. It didn't matter. Like he used Hodor, he got into some birds. I don't even know what he was doing with the birds in episode 3, but whatever. And then Bran's connection with the Night King. Like, oh, come on. Like, he's really this villain that doesn't talk, and they have this connection, and they're about to, like, have a moment, and there's some sort of shared history, but we just don't know, and it's just gone forever. Like,
because they just had this evil stare down, and then, for like for about 30 seconds, a minute almost, and then all of a sudden, the Night King gets killed off by Arya.
Right. And don't get me wrong, episode 3, like, great episode, like cinematography, like the acting, like I needed to be like medicated for my anxiety. I was so anxious sitting on the edge of my seat. But they just made things that didn't matter. It just was rushed. The Night King and Bran, Jon's heritage, right? Like it's this whole like conspiracy that Ned Stark knew that there was a secret marriage, that he is like the prince that is promised, and essentially his heritage was just used as like a little, like, I don't even know the words I'm trying to find, but just as like a little causation to make Dany jealous and make her go mad. That's the whole reason that he's not actually the rightful king. He's not the prince that's promised, that's supposed to end winter.
And then all of a sudden it's blurted out all over in the course of maybe one episode. Now everybody seems to know it.
Yeah. And I actually thought it was really interesting what Varys was doing in episode 5. Because it actually took me, I had to rewatch. He was trying to poison Dany in the kitchen, and that's what he was using the kitchen girl for. That was very, very trippy. I had no clue. Someone had to point that out to me. That was interesting, and I'm actually really satisfied with like Varys and the way he died. That he was really just trying to make the world a better place. He saw that Dany was a bad person, that she was gonna go mad, so he tried to kill her, which is pretty gnarly.
He foreshadowed everything, and even to Tyrion, who you expect to have the brain and the intellect to go ahead and see these things for himself. Unfortunately, on this occasion, Varys was right and Tyrion was not. But Tyrion ended up betraying him, and it cost him his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anything else on your list, my friend, when it comes to I guess the list of grievances?
Yeah, I could go on forever. But hey, I just want to still say, if D&D is listening right now, I just want to say I appreciate what you did. It's the best show I've ever watched. A little disappointed in the ending. Leaves a lot left to be desired. But you know what? I have hopes that when my life is extended via AI and all the technological advancements, and I'm like 120 years old, someone's going to be able to like CGI the entire season 8, season 9, and season 10 of Game of Thrones through some AI stuff. So I'm excited for that. So we'll wait for that one. See how AI ends that one.
Hopefully I will be, maybe like at my head and be on like some like android body will be able to go ahead and experience it as well.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see all the android prototypes at the next NAB show.
Exactly. One last thing to ask you, my friend, when it comes to what's going on in your world. And once again, I'm with Sam Petralia. He is the man behind the Bullhorn app, the best podcast app out there. You got to check it out today on both iPhone and Android phones. I said it before, and I said it from the beginning exactly of this interview, exactly how much I am enjoying the Bullhorn app, but it's got to come straight from you, my friend. Why do people need to get the Bullhorn app?
So it is a great app. There's some features that's lacking. In a comparison chart, I would say we have 90% of them, and we're doing pretty good. We're trying to close the gap with some of the other popular apps. But I think my biggest encouragement to your listeners on why they should download Bullhorn app is that they can email me. Like I want your guys' suggestions on how to make this app the best podcast app, because that's really what I'm gunning for. And anyone that's left a review on the App Store, I really appreciate that. I've gotten some really cool feedback through there. People email me every day. I try to respond to every single email and try to be really personable and take in the suggestions. Not every suggestion's gold, but I want to hear what other people think. I'm only one person. Our team here is pretty small. We're about 10 people. And we can't think of everything. So if you don't believe me and Gerald that this is the best podcast app, maybe download it so you can help us make the best podcast app.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now, I've used well over a dozen different podcast apps in my lifetime in regards to the phones that I've had over the various years that have played podcasts. And this by far is the best, easiest to use, very sleek, it's just as great. It just does a great job overall for me. And on the way, we didn't even talk about the audiobooks that are out there, those choices that are still out there that are part of the Bullhorn app as well. So if you're into audiobooks of some of the great works that are out there, you can check that out as well. Plus, you know what? Line up your favorite podcasts all on the Bullhorn app, and you won't be disappointed with it. It is the Bullhorn app. It is available right now on the Google Play Store and on your iPhone as far as Apple Store and all that good stuff. I'll tell you what, I have it right now. You can also get it as well for your PC. Check it out today. It's the Bullhorn app. Sam, it's just great having you on the show. We didn't even talk Marvel, my friend, because I know you watched the Endgame, but that's for another day, or maybe
that's for another time.
Yes, that's for another time, because I want to get you on your thoughts on where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going. In fact, after Spider-Man comes out, and that's supposedly the end, although it should have ended with Endgame. That's why you call it Endgame. Don't get me started with that. I want to definitely hear your thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole and where you think it's going. I'd love to have you back on the show right here with us at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Gerald.
Thanks as always, my friend.